Well, good morning again. And happy Sabbath. 90 days ago, we were beginning the year. Right? And now we are 1 quarter into the year, and 1 quarter is already gone. So before we know it, friends, we're going to be facing once again the end of the year, God willing. And then a new year again. Well, this morning I want to take the first presentation to talk a little bit about the news. I'm not going to be talking about fake news, because that's all we get. we want to talk this morning about news as it relates to Bible prophecy. And I'm sure that there's a lot going on that I have no idea of, and perhaps that's fine. But sometimes when we see the news, we need to realize that we're coming to the very end of human history. And we cannot continue. We cannot afford to do business as usual. We need to be real with God, number one. And number two, we need to tell other people that time is running out for them as well. So we have a lot to do and a short time to do it. Well, this morning I want to take you back to 1993. It's going to be 25 years on April 19. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. What is it? Waco. There you go, Waco. It's not going to be in the news, most likely. It's not news anymore. But to me, it's relevant what happened then, because the things that were surrounding the event. And even though it's old news, it's not in the news anymore, it's gone and it's past, we need to realize that what happened then eventually will happen again. To be honest with you, it has been happening here and there all the time ever since. I'm not here to support David Koresh and his ideas. I disagree with him on many issues. However, I agree that he had the right to believe what he wanted to believe. And I believe that he was taken out as long as with 79 people. 22 of them were children. They committed no crime whatsoever. But they were killed. They were murdered by the government. And the people in America didn't care about it. There were too few to begin with. And they were too weird. They were too strange. So it was okay if they were done away with. But I want to take you back for a moment and see what happened then and why it happened. You know, David Koresh, he used to be a Seventh-day Adventist. When he was born in 1959, his mother was 15. She was not married. His father was a drunkard, and he died as such. So he came from a messed up home. And that's point number one this morning. We need to be careful what we're doing with the children. Because sometimes when they become men or women, they have 2 strikes already against them. And that was him. He did not have a loving family, a Christian family. I mean, his mother eventually became a Seventh-day Adventist. And that's how he became a Seventh-day Adventist. Originally, they were Baptist, but they were not attending church. They were not faithful in any way or form or shape. So when he came to the Seventh-day Adventist church and he became a member, he was baptized, he was trying to date the pastor's daughter. And the pastor was not too happy with that idea. And he says, no, you have no chance with my daughter. You have no chance. She's not going to be your wife. And he tried and tried, but he didn't go anywhere. Eventually, he was his fellowship because he got into weird ideas and things like that. And then he moved on to Waco. And there, eventually, he became the leader of that movement there. There's a book written, I don't know if you have seen the book, I haven't seen the book, but I've seen the picture of it, that is called Waco, the Big Lie. And in that book, there's a lady called Linda Thompson, and she died in 2009. She really talked about what happened that day. And not just that very day when they were murdered. What happened for 51 days in that place in Waco, when the government on February 28th came down. He went to the ATF. They want to take him in. And there was a shooting. And you know, 4 officers were shot and killed that day. Interesting, 3 of them have been bodyguard to Bill Clinton. And they knew too much. During the campaign, and going back 1994, he was campaigning for the White House. They were the bodyguard that were assigned to him and his wife. And then eventually they became members of the ATF. And that day, 3 of them were shot and killed by his own people. Koresh and his people never shot anybody that day. That was the beginning. And then in April 19th, that was the ending of it. A man by the name of Paul Fatah, he was a follower of David Koresh. He says they could have come and take him any time. For example, let me read to you what he says. He says, David Koresh, others, and myself have gone jogging down the road 3 miles from the compound many times. Why wasn't he arrested then? We were off the property several times. And one time he went to town, David, and he bought $50,000 worth of weapons. That's a lot of weapons. Of course, the ATF came around and says, what are you buying so much? Not to him. He came to the guy that owned the shop, the gun shop. And he says, well, he had the money. There's nothing wrong with buying weapons. It's illegal. And he even called David. Said, David, the ATF is here. They want to talk to you. And David said, yeah, tell them to come up and see me. I'm just a few miles away from town. But the ATF said, no, we don't have to talk to him. That's fine. We just want to know that the transaction that took place and so forth. And that was the end of it for some time. However, eventually they came back and they want to take him to prison. Let me take you back another time. David had the idea that him and his followers were going to fulfill Ezekiel 9. That's why they were buying so many weapons. I mean, they're going to kill the people literally, us, the faithful people, the Seventh-day Adventist people. So they were buying and stocking weapons, hoping that eventually was going to come the time for fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. That's why they were buying so many weapons. Another idea that they had is that they had to move to Jerusalem and gather there as one people so they could see Jesus' second coming. So they were in the process perhaps of selling the compound and moving to Israel, hoping that eventually they were going to be all there together as one people and Jesus then was going to come. You know that on that day, April 19th, after 51 days of music being played very loudly, every day, every night, lights, and whatever you can think of, then the government moved on. They stormed the place, they burned it to the ground, the people were gassed to death, and then 79 people died that day. And the rest of it is history. A man that was very close to the Clintons, Vince Foster, I don't know if you remember that name. He said, it's not right what happened there. And he was not happy with it. And he was a lawyer. And he had connections in Washington. But he did not know what you and I knew. No. Is that the Clinton, as any other politician today, then and today and even in the future, are puppets. I don't know if I explain myself. They are not presidents, they are not congressmen, they are not senators, they are not judges, they are puppets. And the puppets are just the face that you see, but they don't make decisions. They look good, they dance around, they talk nicely, but they don't make decisions. So when he began to talk about doing something about what happened over there in Waco, you know what happened to him. One day he was found dead. And he did not die in the park where he was found. He died someplace else. And that was the end of Vince Foster. The day after the massacre, on April 20th, President Clinton, in the Rose Garden, in a press conference, said what I'm going to read to you. Again, I want to say, as I did yesterday, I am very sorry for the loss of life which occurred in the beginning and at the end of this tragedy in Waco. I hope very much that others who will be tempted to join cults and to become involved with people like David Koresh will be deterred by the horrible scenes that they have seen over the last 7 weeks. I hope very much that the difficult situation which federal agents confronted there, which they will be doubtless required to confront in other contexts in the future, will be somewhat better handled and better understood because of what have been learned there. So what the president then was trying to say is this: the message is clear. Stay in the mainstream churches of America. Don't join any weird movement around here. If you do, you're going to suffer the same fate that the Branch Davidians. Do not be part of any independent or perhaps self-supported ministry. Just put your money in the till and keep your mouth shut. Do not speak about the second coming of Jesus. Do not talk about the love of God. Don't mention the papacy, of course. And don't even try to preach the three angels' messages. You want to worship God according to the dictate of the Bible? You will be decreed a fundamentalist and treated as a terrorist in the coming conflict. So these are my words. And trying to show you what it was said then to the press and to the media and also to the world, but what he was trying to say is don't join any movement that believes different than the mainstream churches of America. Friends, God has given us a message that is unique. It's not your message, it's not mine either, it's God's message. And it's a privilege to have it. But it's not the message of peace and comfort. It's a message to prepare people to meet God when He comes soon in the kingdom of heaven. A few days later, Janet Reno, she was the state or the general attorney at that time. She was asked on CNN, says, what is a cultist? And they were talking about David Koresh and his people. And says, number one, someone that has a strong belief in the Bible. Well, I guess I'm one of them, because I believe the Bible. Number two, strong belief in the second coming of Christ. Number three, frequent attendance at Bible studies. Number four, give high levels of finances to Christian causes. Number five, homeschool their children. Number six, accumulate survival food. Number seven, strong belief in the Second Amendment. Number eight, who has distrust of big government. And number nine, dwells in the country for the most part. So 9 points what the state attorney or the national attorney is saying. If you believe one of this, or not, perhaps 9 of them are, I don't know how many, but then you are a David Koresh in the process. So we see that Satan has you and I, and those who, by the grace of God, wants to be faithful to him, as the target group to be destroyed and persecuted eventually. So we see that the news is telling us that what happened then will be happening again in the future. Friends, we do not need to be worried. What we need to do is to be faithful to God. Amen. Let God handle Uncle Sam. God knows how to. But if we are in Christ and we're having a walk and a saving relationship with Him every single day of the week, friends, we are preparing for heaven. And even though Satan and his cronies will do all that they can do to try to destroy the people of God, they will not succeed at the end. It's true, some of us might die for Jesus, but that would be a privilege. That would be an honor. He died for us. So it would be a privilege for us to die for Him. And also our blood then will become like water to seed the seed of truth that has been planted in people's heart. Don't forget, that's what happened to Paul when he saw Steve being murdered. Steve had no idea what God was already doing in his heart. But he was already preparing a champion, a warrior for Christ, as Stephen was being put to death. So the time might come when you and I perhaps have to give our life to Jesus, for Jesus, and that's fine. He will give us the grace that very moment to go through it in such a way that many people will see Christ in us and they will be encouraged to have a walk with God. That's piece of news number one. Okay, I want to move on. Another piece of news that I want to share with you this morning is about the president now, our president now, moving the embassy, the U.S. embassy, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Why is he doing this? Well, he's doing it because the evangelicals, the people that really elected him and did a lot for him to make it to the White House, so he could make it to the White House, they believed that the end time events will take place in Jerusalem, not here in America. But you know that idea is not evangelical. That idea came out of the Council of Trent during the counter-revolution, Reformation. I mean, the Reformation was a revolution. But because it's set free, by the way, the Reformation has been the greatest emancipation movement ever in human history. Until now. There's another one that is coming, much better. And the impact will be much greater. And that's Jesus' second coming. But the Reformation set free 50 million people in just 25 years. So it was an emancipation movement, friends. However, as you know, the Jesuits decided that it was not time for more Reformation. It was time to undo the Reformation. So they had the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563. The longest council ever, 18 years. Over there in Italy, in northern Italy, Trent, the city of Trent. And one of the ideas that they came up with is that little horn of Daniel 7 is talking about who? The papacy. And everybody, all the reformers, from England to Germany, from John Calvin in Geneva to the Scandinavian countries, all the reformers had in common one thing. That little horn is the papacy. No doubt about it. And everybody was looking at it and said, yes, that's right. It's in the Bible. You can see it in history. So they said, hold on, we need to do something to distract the attention of the people to that little horn. So they don't see it as the papacy. So two Jesuits from Spain, Alcazar, he came with the idea that everything took place during the times of the prophet. That the preterist viewpoint is in the past. Nothing is going on right now. It's already done and over with. We don't have to worry about prophecy. There's no prophecy going on. So that little horn talks about the time of Daniel and Antioch. And that was it. That was the fulfillment of it. Another priest, also from Spain, his name was Rivera, Francisco de Rivera. He says, no, it's in the future. So they take the last week of Daniel 9, you know, the 70-week prophecy, You have 7 weeks and 62 weeks and then another week, 70 weeks, right? Then the last week, he put it right into the future. For no reason whatsoever, even today. There's no reason. You talk to them, what about that week of prophecy in the future? Well, it's in the future because it's in the future. But why is in the future? Because it's the future. And that's it. There's no reason for it, even today. And it says that last week is going to be taking place in the future. Then, and only then, not right now, there's nothing going on in the present, then the little horror will take place. Someone in Europe will rise up and he will become a famous leader, and then he's going to be friends with the Israelites and the people of Israel for 3.5 years, and then he's going to become an enemy to them. But in that process, the temple has to be rebuilt in Jerusalem. And not only the temple, the sacrifices, they had to be done once again as they were done in the past. So that idea of the future came out of the Council of Trent. And through Escoffield, which used to be a Scottish Presbyterian pastor, at the end of the Bible, he has some articles about the futurist, and eventually came into the evangelical churches of the world, including here in America. That's why they believe, for example, the secret rapture today, friends. Imagine, it's so secret that not even God knows about it. Because it's true. It's nowhere in the Bible to be found. That's how secret it is. Not only the idea that there's a secret rapture, and you know what it does to us? We are the only people really that believe in the second coming. When you talk to the evangelicals, good people, and God has a lot of people there, friends. A lot of them are still there, not here, are there. They are not preparing for the second coming. There's no preparation spiritually or physically for Jesus' second coming. They're believing that when the difficult time comes, they're going to be taken to heaven. So, they're having fun in churches. They're having a wonderful time. They're not going to be here through the tribulation. They're going to be up in heaven. Imagine when they find out that time has come and they're not ready. You will have millions of sincere people that have been deceived. No spiritual preparation whatsoever. And no physical preparation at all. And they will be in a crisis that they never thought they were going to be facing. So we are the only people that believe that Jesus is coming, and He's coming soon for the second time. If you go to the Catholics, they believe that you have to die to go to heaven. So they are not preparing for Jesus' second coming. We are the only people that really believe in Jesus' second coming, and He's coming soon. Amen. Not only that, if they are not raptured, when the rapture takes place, they have 7 years to prepare. So they have a second chance. That's not where in the Bible. We don't have no second chances. We have one chance. And we better use it wisely. So if you don't go with the first group, don't forget there's another group that then you can go with. But it's not going to happen. Not only that, because of that futuristic viewpoint, they believe that the end times events will be taking place in Jerusalem, over there in Israel. And they have no idea themselves that they are fulfilling prophecy. And prophecy is taking place right here underneath their nose. And they have no idea whatsoever. They are looking over there. That's why Satan has that place always in a war. So people say, see, there's something going on. Yes, there's something going on. It's a distraction. It's a decoy. It's a decoy. Look what is happening over here. Don't look what is happening over there. See, prophecy moves as Jesus moves. See, that's why prophecy is moving from the east to the west. Because in the sanctuary, Jesus is moving from the east to the west. And right now, He's in the most holy place, right? So he has gone all the way to the west. The outer court, east, then holy place, and most holy place. So that's why you have Babylon, and then you have Persia, and then you have Greece. See, you're moving west. And then you have Rome, and then you have papal Rome, and then you have the United States in prophecy. So it's moving, as Jesus is moving from the east to the west, prophecy is moving from the east to the west. However, people are looking to the east. They are looking at the wrong place. Even a president, he has no idea. He's just fulfilling a campaign promise, believing that is the right thing to do, when it's not. It's the opposite. It's the wrong thing to do. So friends, that's why we need to take seriously the gospel and the message that God has given us. Because you have good people with good intention, but they're wrong. They're looking at the wrong place, and they're not preparing for what is coming, and they're not preparing for who is coming. Much less. So that's why the president moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv. Oh, he's in the process. It should be moved by May. He's even planning to be there for that day when the embassy will be opened in Jerusalem. But I want to take it a step further. So you see, what the evangelicals believe today is not an idea that came out of them. It came out of the papacy. And to be honest with you, the evangelicals today have come under the control of the papacy. So they are doing something in behalf of the papacy. However, the papacy is saying, we have nothing to do with it. The papacy is telling the world, because the Pope says so, well, that place should be the capital city of the Palestinians and also the Jewish people. So he's lying. He's lying. You know what happened in the 11th century? 7 crusades. What for? Who was behind the crusades then? The Pope. What was his idea? To conquer Jerusalem. They want to move the Vatican from Rome to Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem is the place where you have 3 world religions birth. The Jewish faith, the Christian faith, and the Muslim faith. I mean, it has holy connotation. It's not a holy place at all. I'm just using the word that you hear on the news. But it has the idea that it's a holy place. And it's a place for a holy father to dwell in. As Abraham, the father of the Jewish people, as Abraham, the father of the Christian people, as Abraham, the father of the Muslim people, was willing to sacrifice his son on Mount Moriah, which is Mount Zion. That's where Solomon built the temple, if you know what I mean. That's where you have the dome. I don't know if you have seen the Golden Dome. It's the second most sacred place in the Muslim faith. As a place where Muhammad was taken to heaven. Only Muslim people can get into it nowadays. That was not the way years ago, but now that's the way it is. You have to be Muslim to get into that mosque and see the rock. And supposedly there is the footprint of Muhammad before he was taken to heaven. So the papacy working in the wilderness, because that's what Revelation 17 says, right? Said that the woman was taken to the wilderness. When was it that the papacy went into the wilderness? 1798. From that moment on, she has been working in a secret way. When the civil power was removed from this religious power, that's the deadly wound. That organization has continued to work, but he has done a work that you and I cannot see. We know what he's doing because the Bible tells us how the system is working. And the spirit of prophecy once again reaffirmed what the Bible is already saying. So through secret societies, through different societies, has been taken over the world, including the evangelicals here in the U.S. And every U.S. president, whether Democrat or Republican, since FDR in 1932. Every U.S. president has not been elected, has been selected. The only one that was not willing to follow the party line was Kennedy. And you know what happened to him. 10 days before he was shot, let me read to you what he said. He says, "There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, every woman, and every child." I was a president talking at Columbia University in New York City, 10 days before his death. "Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot." How far did he go? 10 days more, and that was it. See, he was a Catholic, but he was an American in his heart. See, when the Catholic people came to America, Irish, as the Kennedy family was, they fell in love with America. Even though they were brought over by the papacy, and you can read it in the book by Morse. Talks about immigration and how immigration was being used in 1830s. Imagine, almost 200 years ago. It says bringing the Irish, and then the Italians and the Polish, and I mean good people, bringing them over here, knowing that one vote of the Irishman is equal to the vote of a president. 2 votes of an Irish man has more power than 1 vote of the President of the United States. They knew that. So by flocking the country with Catholics, they were expecting to take control of the country right away. However, when the Catholics came to the U.S., they fell in love with the country. People were nice. There was prosperity. There was freedom. And they enjoyed the freedom as much as you and I did. And they said, no, well, we're not going to go along with their plan. We're going to defend America. And they became Americans. And even when one of them became president in 1961, he said, no, I'm not going to follow the Pope. I'm going to follow the Constitution. You know that he went to Dallas, September 1960, and he had a meeting with over 500 Baptist preachers in Dallas. And that's what he said. I'm not going to follow the Pope. Let's make a deal. Because they were kind of, at that time there was Protestants in this country. They were kind of scary. I'm a Catholic going to the White House. I'm not sure I want to do that. He says, don't fear. I'm not going to follow the Pope. I'm going to follow the Constitution. However, you have to, let's make a deal. Don't tell the people how to vote. Let them decide. So I'm going to be faithful to the Constitution. You also be faithful to the Constitution. Don't tell your people how to vote. And that was a deal. When he became president, he wanted to dismantle the CIA, for example. Because the CIA means it's Catholics in action. That's the meaning of it. That's not what the news says, but that's what it is. The guy that founded the CIA was Wild Bill. And in 1949. And he was a staunchly Catholic man. Because of what he did, founding the CIA, the Pope gave him, when he died, there was a special mass for him. Requiem mass. That only bishops, no priests, Only high-ranking officials in the Catholic Church can perform. And that's a Mass when you have gone beyond your regular duty for the church. Do you know who else got another request Mass? Reagan, when he died. And he never said that he was a Catholic. But he was given a high-ranking official Mass when he died, because he had gone beyond regular duties for the church. And sometimes people are so proud of him because he was so American. Friends, let's open our eyes. It's true, he knew what to say and how to say it, but he was being used and manipulated by Rome. By Rome. Okay. So he wants to dismantle the CIA, for example. He says, we have no business being in Vietnam. What are we doing there? We're there because Cardinal Spellman wants us to be there in Vietnam, defending the Catholic Church. But we have no business. Bring them home, bring the boys home. And he was printing money, as the Constitution said that the government can do, without depending or going to the Federal Reserve Bank. Take into account the Federal Reserve Bank is not federal. It's as Federal Express, if you know what I mean. It has nothing to do with the government, friends. It's just a name. It's just a name. It's a private institution run by 12 banks in the world. And he was willing to do that and says, no, we cannot allow him to be around for too long. And they got rid of him. But every single president, FDR, Truman, Ike, but perhaps not Kennedy to some degree, Lyndon Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush father and then son, Clinton, Obama, and the one we have in the White House, Prince, they have been selected to be presidents. They have been trained and prepared to be presidents. And if we have another one coming in the future, it will be the same thing again. That's why the president is moving the embassy. Because he's fulfilling campaign. However, in the process, he's doing the work in behalf of the papacy. And who's been blamed for it? The United States. Who has clean hands? The papacy. They say, you know, it's for both groups, you know, Arabs and Muslims, and Jewish. He's lying. He is lying. You know, World War II, what did the papacy do to the Jewish people? Through Hitler. 6 million of them. See, the Jewish people have never come under the full control of the papacy. And even though in the past they have been persecuted and, you know, they were placed in ghettos. And you have ghettos today here in America for black people and also for other minorities. It's not a good place to be in. It's a good place to be from. And those places have been created for the purpose of keeping the people slave and oppressed and poor, with no mind to think, depending on Uncle Sam. So the new plantations today are in the cities of America. They're not just at the south as they were then. They're in the cities of America. And we need to tell the people there, come out of it, my people, and be set free again. Because you're not free there. So 6 million people dead. Because the papacy using Hitler. Don't forget he was a Catholic. And he was not only a Catholic, he said, my organization is the closest organization that is following the Jesuit institution. So the Nazi party, what was the name of it? It's a German nationalist social workers, German workers, or something like that. I lost my thread of thought in Germany. So it was not a right wing, as the media wants us to believe, that the Nazi Party was a right wing institution. It was the other way. It was a socialist institution. And when they came to power, Germany was in ruin. However, there was a group of people in Germany that they were prosperous. They had businesses. Any idea who they were? Jews. That's right. They were not following the socialist agenda of dependence on the government. They were following the plan of God. When God made man, right, in creation, remember? He made Adam, what? An entrepreneur. Do you know what I mean by that? He did not give him a bank account, right? He did not give him a credit card. See, go to Safeway when you are hungry and buy some food. That's not what God did. He says, work. I'm going to give you a farm to take care of it. And if you work it, I will prosper your work, and you will have plenty to eat, and even you have so much that you can sell some of it and make some money. So the Jewish people were entrepreneurs. That's why you see today the small business is going out of business, friends. When you have big establishments like Walmart and so many others, they're putting the little guy out of business by design. Because when you are an entrepreneur, you are a free person. You don't have a boss. You don't have unions to deal with. You can close the Sabbath with no problem whatsoever. It's your business and you run it as you want it. So the little shops today and the little businesses are going out of business. And not only they're going out of business, it's so difficult to start a new business nowadays that it's almost impossible. The paperwork is this much. So you cannot afford it. It's beyond your means to have to own your own business anymore. See, Satan is already establishing what he did in Germany. Creating a group of people that have a complete dependency on the government. Or perhaps if you don't depend on the government, but you depend for a paycheck on a farm or a factory or someone else, you're not an entrepreneur. You're eating because someone else is feeding you. And eventually that someone else will ask for loyalty. What are we going to do then? If you've been getting a paycheck every week, $1,000 every week because you work for so-and-so, and he's keeping you alive, what happens when he says, well, if you don't come on Sunday, on Sabbath, you'll be fired? Are we going to show up then? Or we're going to show up here? See, Satan is already preparing the people for a crisis. Knowing that because, we have been told, because of lack of food, lack of clothing, they will not be faithful to God. Right now you have 50 million Americans eating because food stamps. 50 million Americans are receiving every month food stamps. Right now. And we're doing well, quote unquote. Quote unquote. So that tells you something. Something that the news will not tell you. So when the Jewish people were now wiped out in World War II, the papacy created the idea that it was time for a state of Israel. 1948. And then the majority of the Jewish people, they moved there. Have they enjoyed peace ever since they moved there? Thousands of them have died there. The very day the state was created, a war began. And it has been a war ever since, and will continue to do so. And who is killing the Jewish people now? ISIS. The Arabs. The papacy, we have nothing to do with it. Clean hand again. Clean hand. Friends, we need to realize the times that we're living in. When I talk about the papacy, I talk about the papacy, the institution, not the people in the system. That's why I said the papacy. It's an institution, it's evil. There's no other organization in the world in 6,000 years that has done more evil than this institution. However, today, people believe the opposite. That is doing a lot of good. Of course, Hollywood is helping. There's a new movie coming out, A Man of His Word. Who's going to be in that movie, friends? It's not me. It's the Pope. And you can see the trailer. It says His Word, not this one, unites us. In a broken world, in a divided planet, He is the only one that can unite us. Now, that's in the trailer. I'm not making it up. And you can see Him talking to the Muslims and talking to different groups of Christians and talking to Buddhists and talking to Hindus, and they are laughing and having a wonderful time. And He seems that He's the one that is really uniting the world. As the world is falling apart, because the world is polarizing right now. I mean, this nation is more divided today than the Civil War movement in the 1960s. It's divided by race, again. It's divided by gender, if you know what I mean. And you have 53 genders now. And the number is increasing, I'm sure. Just about every day. It's divided by the have and the have not. On economics, divided by education, divided by immigration, divided by religion, divided by politics more than ever before. And Jesus said, a kingdom that is divided cannot. So you and I need to realize that we are just one step away from seeing the collapse of America. Our president is not going to make it greater. It's going to make it fall. By design. It's not his design, by the way. But he's a face that we get to see every day. Jesus said a divided house cannot stand. Will fall. So if you have a divided house at home, it's time to fix it. Because he's not going to make it to the end. Amen. We need Jesus to bring us together as one and keep us one, as one. That's why you see, for example, Russia doing what it's doing today. It's becoming once again a dictatorship. China, talking about the big countries in the world. India. You have a leader that is there, and he will continue to be there for who knows how long. Because the world is polarizing. The Republicans are moving more to the right, the Democrats are moving more to the left. Friends, we cannot follow human schemes. We need to follow Jesus. If you hitch your wagon to any human organization, it's not going to make it. Unhinge it. Let's abide in Christ. He's the only one that can make us be happy, and then give us a place in heaven. What more can I say about the news? Well, my time is up. It's 10:30. Perhaps one more. That's to give you an idea. It's a famous movie just came out. Black Panther. And it's a movie that the people have gone to see perhaps like a few other movies. Very famous movie. However, that movie is a movie that is preparing the black folks in this country for a revolution. Yes. I haven't seen the movie, but I read about it enough, perhaps to know what the movie is all about. It's about a king in Africa, and he died, and then his son became the king, of course. And then there's a big revolution. That movie is telling the black community in America, it's time that you go back to your African roots. And the movie, the African root means sorcery and witchcraft. The dead king now is leading the nation through his son. And the son is talking to his father that is dead all the time for counsel. And his mother is talking to her husband that is dead and asking for counsel and guidance. And the counsel they're getting is good, because the kingdom is prospering, is moving forward. Does the Bible condemn talking to the dead? Yes. Not only that, the movie is saying what the Pope is saying. It's a globalist movie. He's saying it's not time to build walls, it's time to build bridges. Who said that before the movie did? The Pope. By the way, once again, friend, the Pope is lying. Because when he went to Mexico and he told the Mexican people, there's no need for a wall here among you and the United States, but he's in a city, Vatican City, it's a walled city. And it was built over 600 years ago to protect the papacy from the Muslims that were coming into Europe. He's a liar, friends. When I talk to my brothers and sisters in the Spanish community, they said, don't fall for him. He's not for you. He's a liar. He's in a walled city, well protected and taken care of. But he doesn't want America to have a wall. What a liar. What a liar. In the movie, the homosexual agenda is promoted too. Inclusiveness. See, the black community in America, the root of it is not in Africa, even though they came out of Africa. It's Christianity. Christianity. The movie is telling them, forget Christianity. Go back to pagans, ideas and teachings. They worship the ancestors. You don't worship dead people. That's why they're dressing like Africans today. Because they want to go back to the root. But don't forget, Africa is not a country, it's a continent. And in that continent you have many, many cultures. A year ago I was in Kenya, one country, 47 different tribes. One country. They have their own language, food, diet, dresses. It's like every tribe is different. I mean, I cannot tell them apart, but they can tell themselves apart. It's like me going to China. I would say everybody's Chinese, but it tells you that I don't know much about the Chinese culture. But it's like saying, for example, that you have to go back to your root. When perhaps a Mexican and a Canadian, even though they are in the North American continent, they are different. They're the same continent, but they're different in many respects. So what culture are you going to go back to? It's also promoting the wrong kind of music. Promoting promiscuity. That means you can fool around, it's okay. As long as you don't get pregnant, that's fine. In movies, no lady gets pregnant. In real life, many do. So Walt Disney is the one that put out this movie. No. Yep. The board of Walt Disney does not have a single black person in it. Not a single black person in it. And that elite corporation, white folks mostly, I'm not against white people at all, I'm not against anybody, is telling the black community what to believe. Is telling the black community it's time for a revolution. What is a revolution? When you gain power by war, by force. It's time that you conquer your roots, you go back to where you came from, and you identify with that root, and then in America you establish your own kingdom. Black Panthers. That's Malcolm X movement in the 1960s, if you remember. And he was the one telling the people it's time to do whatever we have to do. We have to clean house. He was a Christian, and then he became a Muslim. Because the CIA was already making the black community Muslims in America to create friction between the white folks and the black folks in America. And that's why you have, for example, today famous people like Muhammad Ali, famous boxer, right? Abdul Jabbar from LA. You remember the hook? Yeah. All right. I was not in Christ at that moment, so I was into sports at the time. He became a Muslim. See, the CIA was recruiting the cream of the crop in the black community to become Muslims. And to create the Muslim black community in America. To create tension in America. What time is up? Well, friends, civil war is going to happen again. And it's not going to be a pretty picture. That's why we need to be found in Christ and Christ alone.